Welcome back to Montferrat, turned Byzantium, turned Roman Emperor, turned Holy Roman Emperor. When it comes to the Holy Roman Empire, we're just going to have to wait for the Imperial Authority to blow in before we can start thinking about reforming the rather decayed and damaged empire. But today I think we're going to strike the Mamluks. Before I do anything, I need to switch out one of my rivals, and I suppose we'll get rid of this little tribe here, and we'll set the Mamluks as a rival. Normally we'd use our Restore Roman Borders CB on them, but I think instead we're going to use the Attack Threatening Rivals CB, because it's a Show Superiority CB, which will allow us to get war score just from winning battles, and of course gain ticking war score. Because my goal is really to capitulate the Mamluks and take the vital Cairo area, which bankrolls most of their country, and provides them with their obscene amount of levies. Once we take this area, the Mamluks will become very much a paper tiger that we can easily take apart at our own leisure. So taking that area is of course my priority. I am starting to reach the point where I have a little too much money and I'm having trouble keeping up with spending all of it. So we're going to tell the AI to build buildings for us. We'll see how they do. I guess we'll also set them to expand our geos as well. Should we do expand buildings? I think we'll hold off on that one, since sometimes expanding buildings can be a bit of a negative depending on the situation. We're also going to need more manpower. I want to expand my army even further, so we'll build some more armories and some training fields as well, obviously. We're going to begin heading down the military branch of the current age tree. I'd like to get that hostile attrition +1, as well as the next level of heavy infantry, and of course cannons. I haven't really been using cannons because I've been holding out for the good cannons that eventually arrive, but I think it's definitely time we start integrating cannons into our structure. Now, as mentioned, I'm going to expand our army. I'd like to make another 30,000 strong force. I'm still shying away from making cavalry because I feel like they're a little too strong, but I think once we research, say, the heavy cataphracts from this era, we will start including them. We'll now begin fabricating the threatening rival CB on the Mamluks. I forted up the border with them, so the ideal would be that we face all of them on that border and can just deal a lot of damage without having to make our way into their country. We'll of course have to invade them, but I'd very much like to destroy them first, then invade their country. We can get around 75 war score just from defeating their armies, so we'll have to do a little bit of occupying to then reach the 100 war score that will result in their capitulation. One annoying thing about the Holy Roman Empire, and there's quite a few annoying things, is that sometimes the members will petition us to change laws, but they don't tell us which law they're petitioning to change. We can look at two petitions here, and all I know is they want to start a law debate in the Holy Roman Empire, which could literally be anything. I have no way of knowing what exactly these guys want to change, and considering who they are, that being just normal members of the Empire, it's unlikely they want to change anything that benefits us. So we're just going to say no. Chances are good it wasn't anything positive anyway. There goes our Emperor. He's died and been replaced by his son, the new Holy Roman Emperor. This will give us a little bit of imperial authority, which is nice. One of the strategies we could use is trying to lose our emperors as fast as possible, just to get the imperial authority to really rack up. For now, our CB against the Mamluks is available. Ooh, did our alliance with Bohemia end? It looks like it. I was thinking about calling them in, as they'd be a rather helpful ally here. Let's see if we can't improve our relationship with them quickly. Oh, that's why our alliance is broken with Bohemia, because we're both hegemonies. I completely forgot. One thing we could do is actually expand our army even further. That would allow us to take the status of military hegemony from Bohemia, knocking them down, meaning we would be able to ally with them. We could just wait for us to finish the research of pikemen, which will allow us to just upgrade all our existing heavy infantry to pikemen. I think we'll do that before we strike the Mamluks anyway, just to make ourselves even stronger, right? There's our pikemen. We'll quickly upgrade our armies, which should cause them to balloon in size, which should have us surpass Bohemia and become the new military hegemony. It looks like we need a tad more regulars, so I'm just going to make around 10 more pikemen. This can be the basis of a third army as well, once we fully expand it. Now we're just going to wait until we take the hegemony, which should be in a few months, or in a single year. Then we'll ally again with Bohemia. I'm not sure we really need them, but it's nice to have them on side. And being military hegemony will allow us to take more land from the Mamluks, as it will reduce the price of taking territory. There we go, we've taken military hegemony status from Bohemia. We'll ally with them. They're not likely to join our war with the Mamluks, but I honestly didn't expect them to. It's more because I just wanted Bohemia as a friend. Bohemia is friend after all. We're going to declare war. There's not much reason for us to delay. One thing we'll do is set all of our vassals to be passive just for the moment. We need to focus on trying to break the Mamluks first of all. We do have, or we're going to have access to the really good cannon that's unique to Byzantium. So if we need them, we could make some during the war. For now, we're going to stay on the defensive. We're going to see if the Mamluks come and try and siege our territory, and then we're just going to wipe them out. I suppose if we're unlucky, the Mamluks will decide, you know, we're not the aggressor, we don't need to attack. But hopefully they will decide to attack. As we can see there's a few of them. We will need to be a little careful when it comes to jumping on these guys. We don't want to get caught out of position, obviously. Now this really takes me back to playing EU4, the good old jumping out from behind your forts, murdering people, and then going back behind them strat. It's funny that we went through all that work of becoming military hegemony so we could ally with Bohemia, because they've just become the economic hegemony, which means they've of course eclipsed us. But well, it's truly not a big deal. The Mamluks are fighting alone, but they do have a few vassals. I don't think they're going to do much. Maybe Mecca. Mecca has quite a lot of soldiers and is calling up mercenaries. But to be honest, if they just come over and get stack wiped, that will result in us getting more war score, obviously. That gives us the hostile attrition, but that's fine for the moment. We've got a really large stack of Mamluks here, 138,000. We could jump on them. There's a little too many though for us to be able to reliably defeat them. I'm bringing in the levies just to provide us the numbers we need to overcome them. We are getting a bit navally invaded by the Mamluks and their vassals, but that's actually great since those troops are stranded behind our lines. We can clean them up pretty easily. Alright, let's jump on this 166k, and they're a pretty good battle, I guess. We killed 127k of them, earned us a lot of war score too. That's about a third of the Mamluks' overall strength gone from just one battle. We'll pull back behind our lines, no reason to get greedy. We do have to keep an eye out for the Mamluk regulars that we see here. They have cannons mixed in, which means they may be able to bring down our forts relatively quickly if they're given the opportunity to. With that in mind, let's jump on them and try and kill them. There we go. Didn't manage to stack wipe them though, but I didn't really expect to. It's again just pull back behind our lines. We've invented essentially trench warfare, but in the 15th century, and we'll keep using it to maximum effect. I'd really like for a large stack of Mamluks to appear so that we can grab them all at once in a big battle. I suppose 110k is big enough, so let's jump them. We actually ended up taking more casualties in that battle than we dealt. It looks like they did receive reinforcements during the battle though. The Cypriots came to help. There's only 177k left on their side. 120 of that are the Mamluks. Let's see about grabbing these few siegers that are sieging the forts a little to the north. They are getting close to breaking through them, so we of course want to destroy them. It looks like the Mamluks are reaching into their pockets and starting to hire mercenaries. That's not unsurprising, and it's also not the end of the world. At the end of the day, our pockets are deeper, so if we wanted to call up mercenaries, we could call up far more than the Mamluks. We'll see about not calling them up though. One problem we are having it with is our manpower. We kind of rushed into this battle before we had the manpower to sustain larger scale casualties, so it's going to take a while for our regulars to replenish, but we don't necessarily need them to replenish. There's our hostile attrition online. Now every enemy will begin to face attrition from fighting us, which is exactly what we want. We have reached the point where we've gained enough war score from battles that there's not really any benefit for us winning anymore, but it's not like the Mamluks are going to let us get out of fighting battles, right? But we are going to have to think about crossing the border now and occupying their territory. We also need to let the ticking war score tick up, so I think what we'll do is we'll wait for the war score to tick up before we start going on the offensive, because we want to, of course, reach that 100 war score as fast as possible once we start invading. So as I said, we'll just wait a little bit. We have racked up 40 imperial authority. Is there a law we should pass right now? We could pass imperial dynastic preference, which would give us a little bit of imperial monthly authority every month. I think I'd like to hold out and go for the power of the Holy Roman Emperor. I do think, well, I was looking it up, and I think this little 0.12 from modifiers that we're losing every month is due to us being on the first law, Holy Roman Figurehead. It doesn't seem to say anywhere that it causes this, but as I said, I was looking it up and I saw people indicating that that might be the cause. I should probably just check the files, but I'm too lazy to, so we won't bother. Instead, we'll continue to just murder Mamluks that show up. We took a nasty fight there. We got swarmed by the nearly 100,000 mercenaries the Mamluks have called up, and we ended up being pushed back. With the Mamluks calling up so many mercenaries, I might have to call up some of my own just to balance the numbers out a little bit. At the very least, losing that battle wasn't enough for us to drop down in war score. The Mamluks, as discussed, have gone up to 107k mercenaries. The Milanese are in the war on our side, but they're not really doing anything. Same for the Polish, so I don't think we can rely on them to help. So let's hand out the privilege to the nobility, feudal contracts just to reduce the cost of hiring mercenaries by another 20%. Now let's begin calling up some mercenaries. We'll hire them all for the long haul under the assumption that they're probably all just going to die while fighting the Mamluks. One thing we could also do is tell our vassals to go on the offensive, but I'd very much like to avoid doing that until, we've cut a path for them through the Mamluks. We don't want them to run in and just get immediately defeated and start decreasing our war score. We do have to keep an eye on these sieges now though, because these mercenaries have cannons with them. They're going to have an easy time sieging down our forts. Hopefully they don't break any of them, but it's a little outside of our control, obviously. At the very least, we can jump on a fort and liberate it pretty quickly because the AI doesn't tend to assign soldiers to forts they take. For now, let's use our large mercenary army to repel the Mamluk mercenaries that have dared to infest our territory. Well, we've managed to wear the Mamluks down so they're below 100,000 men now. Maybe it's time that I tell our vassals to actually start doing things themselves. We could order them to focus on taking territory. If they can just slip in and take a bit of land, we should be able to win the war. The Polish have showed up. The Milanese were here, but I think they got annihilated and looks like they withdrew from the war entirely. I suppose they did their best. It just wasn't good enough. We actually took a very good fight there against the Mamluks. There's now only 56,000 of them left. Problem is, nearly all of those are mercenaries, and there's a good chance they're just going to call up more. The Polish are here now, though. Maybe they can win a few battles for us and destroy what's left of the Mamluks. Our mercenaries are nearly tapped, so let's call up some more. We have the money to afford them, after all. A part of me does feel that maybe if I'm the one to hire the mercenaries, that might deter the Mamluks hiring them in some sort of bidding war. I'm not sure if such a thing is really reliable, though. The Mamluks are down to around 33,000 men, largely mercenaries though, but I think it's time that we start going on the offensive and cross the border. We don't need to take obscene amounts of territory, just enough that we can get our war score up to that 100. We'll have to keep an eye on the numbers of the Mamluks though. They may just call up another few 100,000 mercenaries and decide to make our lives even harder, but I'm feeling pretty confident in this position. We're just relying on the old forts to actually fall so that we can break through and actually get into their interior. Come on, fort, please fall. Ah, finally, there we go. Unfortunately, the Polish have pieced out, which is too bad. I was kind of hoping that they would help us siege a lot of this land down, but I suppose I'm not in charge of telling the Polish what they should and shouldn't do. We could always call up levies. We do have a good 85,000 waiting in the wings. I'd like to avoid calling them up if possible, though. I'd like to avoid draining my levy population any more than we've already done so. We're very much in a mercenary war of attrition now, though, and we'll have to see who comes out on top. It is too bad the Mamluks build so many forts in their land, or we could just cut through them and occupy a lot of territory. We have really worn down the Mamluks now. They only have 9,000 men left. There's of course the risk that they'll just call up even more mercenaries. We can just hope that this might be the end of them. So we'll continue to work on those forts, see if we can't siege them down. It looks like the Mamluks have reached into their pockets though and are hiring, or no, actually it looks like they're calling up levies. They're calling up around 50,000 levies. That's a lot better than them calling up mercenaries. With that in mind, maybe we should call up our own levies. We do have quite a few waiting in the wings that we could call up to reinforce us. I would like to avoid calling up the levies again though. I don't want them to take even more casualties, right? So instead, I think we'll keep relying on mercenaries. It's not like we don't have the money to call them up. Looks like I've underestimated the Mamluks a little bit. They've managed to bring around, a lot of these are levies though, but even so, levies are quite good in the current version, and they're at least not as bad as they used to be. So we can't just flatten them. I guess we are going to call up our own levies in this situation then. We just need to bulk our numbers out a little, the same as they've done. At the very least, the 100,000 or so K they have here will be eaten a little bit by attrition. It would be awkward if they took the fort before our reinforcements arrived though, but there's a good chance they will. So let's pull back a little to our next group of forts. Alright, now we'll bring our 124k against their 104k. In fact, I think their mercenaries, their contracts have all run out, or at least the ones here have, because I'm not seeing any mercenaries or even any regulars mixed in with this 100k. We should be able to just roll over them. Yep, there we go. There's now only 30,000 Mamluks left, so we'll get back to the good old sieging. We'll as always have to keep an eye on those numbers just in case they start calling up even more mercenaries. Oh, the Sicilians have finally showed up. I was wondering whether they would actually join the fray. Maybe they can help us by sieging down some forts, or anything really. The Mamluks are very reduced now. There's only 3,000 of them, but again, as always, more mercenaries may just join the fray, so we can't really count them out. If we're lucky, though, we may have passed the point where we can overcome them. It does look like they're calling up more mercenaries, though, as usual. Actually, no, does it? They don't seem to be. Maybe these are regulars. It's entirely possible. You Sicilians gonna do anything? Just gonna sit there? Okay, that's fine, I guess. Maybe they'll defeat any enemies that attempt to attack them. That would be nice. We'll just leave them to secure our retreat. And it does look like they're doing that. How friendly and nice of them. As long as they keep dealing with the Mamluk soldiers that try and liberate the fort we've taken that lets us access the area, things should be all good. And on all good, we finally got enough imperial authority that we can pass a imperial law. I think we're going to increase the power of the Holy Roman Emperor, just because I want to see if doing so removes this 0.12, as I've seen people suggest it does. So let's do it. We'll level up our Holy Roman status. It shouldn't have a hard time passing. Looks like everyone's in favor of it. Even they realize that the empire is weak and requires reform. We're getting close to pushing the Mamluks to the point where they'll capitulate. We're at 90% war score. They might be tapped on money. I mean, it doesn't feel correct to say, but we're not seeing any more mercenaries out of them for the moment. And there we go. We've hit the 100% war score. It should just be a few months before the Mamluks capitulate, and then we can take them apart. We've also passed that Holy Roman law, and as we can see, we've lost the 0.10 we were losing from modifiers. So I guess it really was a case where that law brings down the Holy Roman authority. It should probably say that in the tooltip, but it doesn't. But it's good to know, I guess. There we go. The Mamluks are capitulated. So what should we take? We obviously want to take Cairo, and we can't really take much more. Sadly, Cairo alone is so expensive that it will take most of our war score. We could just take the city of Alexandria itself as well. Alexandria is not as useful for us at the moment, though, because we are, of course, Catholic, but it's still a very valuable city. In fact, I think it's the second. Actually, let's just look at the Mamluks economy. Yes, Alexandria is the second most valuable city. So I think we'll do just this. We'll take the Cairo area, we'll take Alexandria, and I guess, could we take the whole Alexandria? We could just take the whole Alexandria province. So I think we'll do just that. We won't take any money from them, I don't think, just because it's not really worth it at this point, and then we'll just make peace. We should see the Mamluk status kind of just collapse. They currently have a base tax of 2,700. If we wait a month or so, we should see that decline. Yes, their base tax is now 1,700, so they've essentially lost 1,000 base tax. That's what we like to see. It's going to be a while before we can really gain anything from Cairo. If I could, I would definitely release a Prenoia there, but of course we can no longer release Prenoias. We could just release a normal vassal though. Feels weird to say, but we could just hand things over to some normal vassals to manage the territory in the short term. So I think we'll do that. We'll release some fiefdoms. Been a while since we've used any fiefdoms. They'll have an easy time managing the territory at the very least. For the next order of business, I think it's time that we fully expel Naples from both Greece and the Holy Roman territory that they are still squatting in. Now let's strike Naples. We'll call in Bohemia, who's re-allied with us, since they lost their status as a hegemony. They are going to call in Spain, but honestly I doubt they'll provide much support. We'll see. Maybe they'll surprise me. So we'll declare war. Our goal for this one will be to take all of the land they have in Greece and take the little bit of Holy Roman territory they control. Our imperial authority is ticking up quite quickly now, so it's less of an issue than it was. We're still getting spammed by all of the members trying to get us to pass laws that weaken the empire, but there's not much we can do about that. One thing I did completely forget about was our war exhaustion. After that war with the Egyptians, it's very high, so let's start working on bringing that down. I completely didn't notice, and such high war exhaustion is going to be a bit of an annoyance, as it essentially damages us in every potential aspect. And here we have the religious wars starting. For some reason we don't start as part of a league despite being Holy Roman Emperor, so I guess we'll join the Catholic League. Makes the most sense. I'm not sure why France is the leader. Surely we should be the leader. I guess we'll see. Oh, and it looks like Bohemia just used an action to force us out of the Catholic League. It doesn't look like we can rejoin again for 5 years. I wonder, is it because we're at war that we weren't allowed to join the Catholic League? I suppose that would make sense. Since we do have 5 years to wait then, I guess we'll see if we can bring the war to a close within these 5 years. Shouldn't be too difficult. We just need to siege siege down a bunch of locations. For some reason, Austria has decided to join our war on the side of Naples, even though they're at war with Naples. This seems very strange. Oh wait, no, this isn't Austria. This is a country that looks like Austria flag-wise, but is actually a nation in Africa. Strange, but for whatever reason, the Austrians have joined. They shouldn't really have a big impact. They'll probably just get sieged down by our allies. I doubt I'll even need to intervene. And there we go. Unfortunately, Naples lost a bit of their territory in southern Italy to Tunis, which is annoying. So we won't be able to demand this, obviously, because it's not a part of Naples anymore. We'll demand everything else, though. We'll demand their Greek territory. We'll demand the Holy Roman territory they occupy. I don't think... Actually, yeah, this is Holy Roman territory. Can we grab this as well? We might... Yes, we'll have to give up a little bit of the land we've taken back here. We could grab something like this, though. This should liberate all of the Holy Roman territory and reduce Naples down. We should be able to full annex them again, or at least fully expel them from Italy in the next war. I don't think there's any Holy Roman territory that is now controlled by non-Holy Roman members. It doesn't look like it. We are still getting a bit of a malus, though, because of locations owned by non-HRE members outside Germany. So there must be... Ah, it's Tunis, right? Tunis controls southern Sardinia. I would like to, of course, attack them, but we don't really have access to Tunis, and I don't really want to get involved in a big naval invasion war with them. So instead, we'll probably continue to work on the Mamluks. They have recovered their economy a little bit from our previous conflict, but now that they've lost Cairo, we can just work away at them. The next objective will likely be to take the Nile Delta area with all its very high wealth locations. In a year's time, we should be allowed to join another league. I hope that joining the Catholic League will let us take control of it. It's going to be pretty awkward if we don't actually have control of the Catholic League despite being, you know, Holy Roman Emperor. And I was planning to use the League War to achieve a certain criteria. I wanted to switch back to Orthodoxy, which requires ending the League War in such a way that all forms of Christianity are accepted within the Empire. But if I'm not head of either of the leagues, it's not like that's something I can control, right? So let's see, our cooldown that's stopping us from joining a faction should end in a few months. And there we go. Now let's join. We're not allowed to join the Catholic League. Why? Is it because we already joined and were expelled? They're just not in the list here, so I can't look at them. Maybe if we wait a little longer, maybe we still have the... Yeah, there we go. Now we can join the Catholic League. We'll join the Catholic League. Doesn't look like we're becoming the leader, though. I wonder what the criteria is to control who leads the league. We definitely have a higher population than France. We have a larger economy. They have slightly more tax base than us, though, only slightly, and we have more locations and a larger army. It may just be down to tax base. Yeah, there we go. It looks like we became leader of the Catholic League. That's excellent. Now we'll be able to lead the Catholic side in the League War when it eventually happens. It should be a real easy time for the Catholic League. I mean, there's only really Bohemia as the nation that has anything resembling strength in the Protestant League, with only small minor nations and one location minors backing Bohemia up. They do have Austria. We could negotiate to their removal from the Union. The problem is that I think the Protestant League has to be the one to start the war. I don't think we as the Catholic League are able to start it. I'm not sure though. It could be that Bohemia just decides we're too strong and they never start the League War, in which case I think Catholicism just wins, which would be disappointing as I did want to switch to Orthodoxy, the correct branch of Christianity, but it may just be out of my hands. You know, maybe we should have joined the Protestant League and taken over it. I don't know though. And then we could have forced the Peace of Westphalia, I believe it is, which results in every form of Christianity being accepted within the empire. We've got enough imperial authority to pass another law. I'm not sure which one I want to pass next. The obvious thing to go for would be imperial dynastic preference, which increases the reason to elect us and give us 0.02 extra imperial authority a month. But instead, I think I'd like to grab indiscriminate free cities. This will let me make free cities out of land that isn't German. Free cities give quite a lot of imperial authority. It's whether I'll be able to make any. In this late period, I imagine there's not many small, tiny nations that can be made into free cities left. We could intentionally create some by divvying out the land and creating one city states that we can then turn into free cities. We'll see how it goes. It might end up being a waste if we aren't able to make any, but I'd like to make some if possible. One of the things we could always do is potentially release our own territory and then create free cities there. I'd like to leave that as very much a last resort though. Aha! Finally, Bohemia has attacked us. triggering the League War. So the correct thing to do is of course go for religious supremacy, which will mean our chosen religion, in this case Catholicism, will become the dominant faith within the empire. But what we're going to try and do is drag out the war as long as possible to trigger the Peace of Westphalia, which requires 80% of the war participants to desire peace. I'm not really sure what the criteria for them desiring peace is. So what I'm essentially going to do is just wait out the war, full occupy the members, don't peace them out, and just wait and hope that enough people desire peace that we get the Peace of Westphalia, allowing us to convert back to Orthodoxism. This war should be almost trivial, honestly. We've got France, we've got most of the HRE. The only one that's even close to being a threat is Bohemia themselves, and even then, they're not much of a threat. I'm not even sure if I need to call up any soldiers or even participate. Let's actually do nothing. It might be better if our allies go in, get stack wiped, take heavy casualties, because it will cause them, I assume, to desire peace faster. So let's sit these things out and see if everyone can't make things go our way. As we can see, we vastly outnumber them. Nearly 2 million of us, and I haven't even called up my levies, which would put us even closer to 2 million. And there's not even 1 million of them, so... Oh, Britain joined though. Britain has joined on the side of Bohemia. Maybe that's what gave them the confidence to start the war. Either way, as I mentioned, I'm going to avoid getting involved in myself unless there's a need to. Looks like our vote actually failed to pass indiscriminate free cities. There's a good chance it's because of the war, which of course made a lot of people hate us in the HRE. Luckily, it doesn't cost Imperial Authority to attempt to pass these reforms, so we can just attempt to pass it again. If I'd noticed, I would have come over and bribed some of these electors to vote for the policy, but of course I didn't notice because it only flipped to the negative a few days/months before it ended. On a humorous note, the Pope, of all people, is on the side of the Protestant League for some reason. I guess he too agrees that Catholicism is not the way for the Holy Roman Empire, or Europe in general. There must be another way. I'm glad to see the Pope has really come around and realised what needs to be done. There we go, we passed indiscriminate free cities. I didn't actually have to do anything. For some reason it just passed on its own. Now we can start looking at nations and getting them to become free cities. It'll be a little difficult though, because the government type of the nations is what affects them becoming free cities. Luckily, if we max our diplomatic spending, we can see our diplomatic reputation plays a big role. So we'll see what we can do. We'll improve relations with these 4 nations that we currently have that could become free cities. I doubt 4 nations is enough to be worth it. We'll have to see what it looks like after the war, as I imagine there's quite a few nations that could become free cities that are currently at war with us. For some reason, passing that law, indiscriminate free cities, didn't cost us any imperial authority. That's odd. I'm not sure why. It definitely should have cost imperial authority unless I've gone crazy and passing laws doesn't cost imperial authority, but I thought that was kind of the whole point of passing laws, right? Either way, I'm not going to complain too much. We'll immediately go for Emperor Dynastic Preference and see if we can't pass that. With that passed, it should be pretty much guaranteed that we're always elected Holy Roman Emperor. It looks like more people oppose this than support it though, so we'll need to bribe a few of the circles to vote our way, but that's a small matter. The League War seems to be expanding. Spain and Muscovy has joined on the opposite side, so has Hungary. We've got a few allies though. Georgia has decided to join, of all nations. We still vastly outnumber them though. Lots of casualties on both sides, nearly 1 million men. Hopefully we reach a point where people start wanting peace soon. As I said, I'm not sure what the criteria of wanting peace is, and there's no real way for me to check, so all I can do is really wait and make sure to not win the League War. The war is still ongoing. How long has it lasted? Who knows? It's been quite a while though. Bohemia still managed to retain its independence from being occupied, which has been quite impressive. I'm not sure whether it's better to occupy Bohemia or not. On the one side, occupying Bohemia will of course bring us closer to 100% war score, which might mean we start getting call for peace, but I don't know if that will apply to the other members of the war. On the other side, since Bohemia has maintained its independence, the other members of the war will continue to invade them and take casualties, which will hopefully push them towards desiring peace. Nearly 1 million people on our side have died, while 1.5 million have died on the other side. We could make peace right now with religious supremacy, but I'd like to hold out and see if we can get the Peace of Westphalia that we desire. At the very least, we can look at the people in the war and see their war enthusiasm. We can see length of war is definitely definitely bring it down. Hopefully the war can last long enough that it brings everyone down. There goes our Holy Roman Emperor. He's again died and his son has taken the throne. Gives us a bit of imperial authority. We actually have enough to pass another law despite the large conflict consuming the empire. One thing I do want to start working on now that we've really secured our place within the Holy Roman Empire, I want to start walking down the path of peace. I'd like to enforce internal peace on the Holy Roman Empire as much as possible, since doing so gets us a 0.10 towards imperial authority every month, as long as we can maintain peace. So that would likely be our next goal. Some people on the other side have started asking me to white peace them. I'm going to refuse, obviously, and keep them in the hopes that their presence and their desire for peace will help bring the war to a close. Alright, I'm not sure whether this is gonna work. Everyone's war enthusiasm seems to be at 0. Is there anyone that isn't? Let me just check. Are there any vassals that aren't either? Seems on their side that Novgorod has a bit of war enthusiasm, but outside of them, everyone is at 0 except for this little vassal here on their side. On our side, we have a few people that still have above 0. Mulhouse, Munster, and a few others, but I'd definitely say that 80% of us are at 0 war enthusiasm right now. We'll keep waiting though, at least until everyone's on 0 war enthusiasm. You can see I'm getting spammed with peace offers from the various nations. I do wonder whether it'd be better to piece them out to reduce the amount of people in the war, but I can't reduce the amount of people on my side, right? Which makes me hesitant to piece out all these people. Let's give it a few more years. We'll say by 1620, if we haven't had the peace forced, maybe we'll make peace on our own. I wonder what happens if we white peace. If we white peace, does that result in a peace of Westphalia? Are we even allowed to white peace? We might not be able to white peace in the main war with Bohemia. Religious supremacy might be the only way we can end the war without the Peace of Westphalia firing. So we'll continue to wait and hope. Right, another 5 years have passed. Everyone's having minus 200 to their war enthusiasm now, so surely the war should end, but it doesn't seem to be. I think at this point what we'll start doing is piecing out the members. We can't demand anything from them, sadly, because of the war goal, but we'll piece everyone out other than Bohemia, or at the very least we'll piece out everyone that can be pieced out. Alright, everyone's out of the war on the Bohemian side, except for 2 nations that are in personal unions, and so we can't peace out with them. Let's continue waiting. And it looks like a load of people we pieced out just immediately joined the war again. Not really what I was hoping for. I guess it might be time for me to look in the files. What I saw from looking in the files, it seems what triggers the Peace of Westphalia is really just the length of the war. Once the war's lasted long enough, everyone desires to leave it. It does look like, though, we could white peace Bohemia. I'm not sure if that will win us the League War, though, or just reset the whole conflict. I might make a save, white peace them, and see. I tried white peacing Bohemia, but all that happened was the war ended and then they immediately declared war again. So white peacing them definitely is not the option, leaving us with simply waiting. Sad, I know. I feel like I've wasted years just waiting out this war in the hopes of getting what I desire. Alright, I think we're gonna give up. We've waited how many years? 27. After 25, everyone was supposed to desire peace, based on what I'm reading in the files here. Could be wrong though, but either way, we have not got the Peace of Westphalia despite my hopes. Our only real option is to, of course, enforce religious peace in the empire by ensuring a Catholic victory. I guess we could surrender and let Hussitism become the main religion of the HRE, but I don't think we're going to do that. How disappointing. What a waste of my time. We could have ended this war ages ago and been off doing all sorts of other things. But alas, it is what it is. These things happen. I do wonder if it's because of me. Is it because I'm a player that I don't have war enthusiasm in the same way? It could be something like that. But as I said, there's nothing I can really do. I guess I could open the console and force a Peace of Westphalia, but I really hate using the console. So we'll just defeat Bohemia, force them to release a bunch of nations, and end the League War. For some reason that counted as our ruler dying, and so we gain more imperial authority, I guess. Thank you. And with that done, I think we're going to leave things here. I've definitely played longer than I intended to, by about an hour, because I was hoping for the Peace of Westphalia. I guess the word play should be used in quotation marks, because all I really did was sit here and wait. Sad. Johann got us again, boys. No Peace of Westphalia for us, no Orthodox HRE. They got us. But either way, I'll thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.